We have covered many stories about the paranormal and ghosts, and still remain open-minded about their existence. However, every now and then we see a photo or hear a story that we think is worth featuring so our viewers can make up their minds about how authentic it is. In this video, we'll be taking a look at 6 true stories and encounters of paranormal or unexplained phenomena. But it comes with a warning. If you are scared of ghosts or afraid of what goes bump in the dark, then do not watch this video. If you're ready to take on the challenge, then hit those lights, sit back, and enjoy. Grey Lady of Cumber Park. Cumber Park in Nottinghamshire has long had the reputation of being haunted by a grey lady who walks slowly and disappears into the mist as strangers approach. The National Trust-owned park is very popular with dog walkers, and when Hannah and Dave Rowett were walking their Labradors in the park early one morning in December 2022, they got the feeling they were not alone. Hannah spotted something in front of her, quickly pulled out her phone, and captured a scary white silhouette crossing her path as she followed it with a torch. Take a look. After Hannah posted it to her Facebook page, it racked up hundreds of views and comments. Hannah claimed there was no logical explanation for what she captured, and even her skeptic partner Dave was stunned. Could that have been the Grey Lady that supposedly haunts the woodland, or is there another explanation? Let us know below. Chop Chop House in Boise, Idaho. 805 West Linden Street in Boise, Idaho is known to locals as Chop Chop House for a very good reason. The craftsman-style home was the location of a gruesome murder more than 3 decades ago. In the early morning hours of June 30th, 1987, 37-year-old Daniel Rogers and 31-year-old Darren Cox shot and killed 21-year-old Preston Murr in the basement of the Boise house that at the time was owned by Rogers. The 2 men then used an axe and knife to dismember Murr's corpse. They then wrapped the body parts in plastic bags and drove to the Idaho-Oregon border to dump them in the Brownlee Reservoir. However, it seems that Murr's horrifying death could have been avoided. Investigations revealed that after an altercation broke out between the 3 men, Murr was shot in the shoulder, but he managed to flee the scene and ran to a nearby house, frantically banging on the door begging for help. The person inside didn't answer the door, but they did call the police and told them about the pounding on the door, and that they could hear someone shouting, "Let go of me," followed by anguished screams. The police never responded to the call. The following day, the neighbour called again after finding blood on his screen door. When police finally arrived, they found blood throughout the neighbourhood, on sidewalks and at least one other neighbouring house, as Paul Murs desperately tried to seek help and escape his attackers. Rogers and Cox were eventually jailed for their parts in the slaying, but since that night, a dark legacy lingers around 805 W Linden Street. Today the house is rented out to students seeking off-campus housing, but rumours persist about what goes on in the house that many describe as having a distinctly off feel about it. One persistent rumour is that blood has been witnessed dripping down the walls of the basement. The basement is where all the paranormal activity is felt, with stories of being watched and a general unsettling feeling. But perhaps the creepiest experience happened to student Dan and his friends who had rented the house. One night they thought they'd heard someone trying to break into the house. No one was there when they went to the front porch to check things out, but after looking around the front yard, Dan turned to face the house and saw a big black oily looking thing in the window of an upstairs bedroom. He remembers the shadowy figure moving back from the window and towards the bedroom door before it disappeared. Shortly after, it reappeared outside in a mirror on the porch. Dan watched as the ball of oily blackness moved down the large column of the porch, slowly growing in size until it took up the full reflection of the mirror and moved right through him. The vivid and unsettling experience has given the house such a bad reputation that many avoid it, believing the oily blob is the desperate spirit of Preston Murr, still trying to escape his assailants. Last sight of a departed friend. This next true paranormal experience happened to Margaret S. Gladstone from Wiltshire, England, who wrote to Country Life magazine on September 24, 1948. Margaret was prompted to write by some recent letters which had appeared in the magazine in previous weeks. Margaret recalled returning to her flat in Westminster, London, one afternoon when she saw two friends coming towards her on the other side of the street. She was in a rush and running late, and although they were dear friends, she had no time to stop and hoped they would not notice her. Margaret deliberately crossed the street, walking behind them, and successfully avoided their gaze. At breakfast time the next day, a mutual friend rang to tell Margaret that the man she had seen the day before had passed away in the night. Margaret was shocked and told the friend that she had seen him and his wife the day before, and they appeared in full health. Her friend then exclaimed that this was an impossibility, as he had been ill for some days and had been bedbound. So was he trying to say a last goodbye, or was it a case of mistaken identity? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and if you've ever experienced something like this. Lizzie Borden house. Most people know the story of Lizzie Borden, the daughter who on August 4th, 1893, allegedly brutally murdered both her parents in their home in Fall Rivers, Massachusetts. Andrew and his wife Abby Borden were found slaughtered in their home. Although murder wasn't uncommon in the late 1800s, the severity of their injuries inflicted by an axe shocked the locals, and soon their 32-year-old daughter Lizzie became the main suspect. The crime and trial made headlines around the world. However, Lizzie was eventually acquitted of murder, but she remains forever linked to the heinous killings, as does the home where they were committed. Nowadays, the house is a bed and breakfast and attracts visitors from around the world who are drawn by morbid curiosity and want to see for themselves if the place lives up to its reputation of being haunted. One of the tour guides at the house tells how when she started working there, she was skeptic and didn't believe in the paranormal. That was until she started experiencing a few strange things herself. Guests had long reported that they could hear laughing and playing in the middle of the night and things moving around. The guide didn't believe them until she found toys scattered around a room no one had been in and witnessed a picture fall over and slide in front of her without a plausible explanation, and a closet door open on its own. Also, on the eve of the anniversary of Andrew and Abby's murder, she and two other tour guides felt sudden sharp piercing pains in their left eye, in the exact location of Andrew Borden's fatal injuries. But perhaps the creepiest thing of all happened when the guide asked a tour group to turn their cell phones to silent before starting a tour. Moments later, a guest's cell phone started ringing. The female guest looked up and said, "It's my mum." The tour guide asked if she wanted to leave and take the call, to which the woman replied, "She died 2 years ago." Who's that girl? In 2022, brothers Christian and Gabriel Ashmore took a selfie of themselves inside a tower of tires. However, after looking more closely at one of the images, they realized they were not alone in the stack, because looking over their shoulder was the ghostly image of a young girl they didn't recognize. Christian told his mum and showed her the photo, and initially she thought the boys had messed with the image, using some kind of ghost app, so she did a couple of checks to see if she could change the lighting, or see whether the photo had been altered in any way, but couldn't find any evidence of this, and believed her boys didn't have the skills to change the photo anyway, and they were adamant they had not edited it in any way. In fact, Christian was apparently left so terrified by the ghost girl that he refused to go to bed alone and stayed in his mum's room. After sharing the photo with family and friends on Facebook, many believed the boys had captured the spirit of a deceased child who just wanted to play, whilst others were more skeptical, believing the photo is tampered with. What do you think? When the ghost you're hunting hunts you. The Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield, Ohio, is best known as the location of the Shawshank Redemption movie. However, it also boasts a rather unpleasant history. It was originally built in 1896 for boys who were too old for juvenile detention but hadn't committed crimes warranting prison. Although eventually it was converted into a maximum security prison. By the 1980s, conditions had become wretched, and it was a horrible place with a vein of violence that ran right through the building. It was the scene of several suicides, murders and riots, and eventually it was closed in 1990. With its history of misery and death, it is no surprise that the building is haunted not only by former inmates and employees, but by anyone associated with them, including women. One is the tormented soul of the wife of a former warden who was shot with a gun sitting on top of a box that she was pulling down from a closet shelf. The anguished woman is often heard crying, and her rose-smelling perfume wafts in one of the bedrooms. Another spirit is a woman who sits in the prison chapel and cries, but when she is approached, she disappears. Other people have witnessed her walking around the chapel. Then there's the malevolent presence in one of the prison's solitary confinement cells, an angry spirit who wards off ghost hunters and visitors, warning them not to enter his cell. He has been caught on tape swearing. The former prisoner has also been known to follow people home, and one ghost hunter and her partner had a terrifying experience when he latched on to one of them. One day, one of them saw him through a reflection in the window, a shadow figure she knew was him. In fact, the spirit continued to follow her until things got so bad, an expert had to be called in to rid her of the ghost. A scary tale of when ghost hunting can go wrong, and the reality of what happens when you go looking for the wrong things. So that's it for this video. We hope you enjoyed, and we'd love to hear your thoughts and theories in the comments section below. We'd also love to hear if you've had any of your own stories or experiences with the paranormal lately. Thanks for watching, and as always, we'll see you in the next video.